I'm Gemma Fisher, a Border Collie training and behaviour expert, here to help you bring out the best in your dog. Whether you're tackling reactivity, recall struggles, or just want to understand your collie better, you're in the right place. This podcast is all about making life with your collie easier, with practical advice, hands-on solutions, and a good dose of encouragement every step of the way. And don't forget, if you want even more support, head over to our Facebook group. That's where you'll find my weekly live Q&A session, exclusive training guides, and a community of collie owners just like you. In today's episode, we're delving deeper into the factors contributing to canine reactivity, focusing on three critical areas: the impact of stress on sleep quality, the prevalence of pain or health issues among reactive dogs, and the effects of overstimulation and elevated stress hormones. So grab a cuppa, get yourself comfy, and let's get started. Now, let me use a example here. So Sarah has a 2-year-old collie, Max, and at home, he's a dream. He's relaxed, affectionate, eager to please. But the moment they step outside, it's like a switch flicks and he turns into sort of this barking, lunging mess. And generally speaking, it's panic stations. Now, let's say Sarah has been told, just train him more. But no amount of commands or treats seems to work. Nothing that she has tried so far seems to be working. But what if the problem isn't just training? Because here's the thing, reactivity doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's influenced by the impact of stress on sleep quality. So we know that stress significantly disrupts sleep patterns in dogs, just as it does in people, and it leads to those behavioural issues that we struggle with. A study published in Frontiers in Veterinary Science found that dogs sleeping less than 6 hours whilst their caregivers were in bed exhibited a greater severity of problem behaviours. So this suggests that inadequate rest, often stemming from stress, can make behavioural problems worse. And of course, it makes sense, doesn't it? We're not at our best when we haven't had enough sleep. So why would our dogs be? Interestingly, research published in Scientific Reports indicates that poor sleep quality can lead to decreased play behaviour in dogs. Now, this is important because play is associated with positive welfare and reduced stress responses. And just to be clear, I'm not talking about an obsessive collie staring for hours at a tennis ball. I'm talking about relaxed, joyful, happy play. I have a picture of my dog Vodka in my head when she's goofing around with a tennis ball. There's an important difference between the two, play versus kind of that obsessional thing that we sometimes see in a stressed border collie. And this relationship between lack of sleep and lack of play behaviour indicates a problem. Essentially, a lack of good quality sleep due to stress can diminish activities that typically alleviate that stress. And the unfortunate downside being potentially worsening behavioural issues, which is obviously a cycle we'd ideally like to avoid. Additionally, a study in Proceedings of the Royal Society B demonstrated that negative social experiences adversely affect dog sleep structure, reducing the proportion of deep sleep. Now, since deep sleep is crucial for emotional processing, such disturbances can impair a dog's ability to cope with stress, further contributing to reactive behaviours. Now, the big takeaway, sleep is important. And sleep is particularly important if we have a reactive dog, because if they're not getting enough sleep, the training that we're potentially trying to give them isn't going to be processed properly, and it means that we're not going to get the benefits that we're hoping for. And the truth of it is that no amount of training will take away from that fact. So the basis of all good training or behaviour modification plans starts with addressing how to help the dog achieve better rest. Now, another thing that I believe is really important, and science has proved that is very important, is gut health and its connection to canine mental well-being. Emerging research highlights the significant role of the gut-brain axis in influencing behaviour and mental health in dogs. Now, the gut-brain axis refers to the bidirectional communication between the gastrointestinal tract and the central nervous system. Where we have disruptions in this axis, it can lead to behavioural changes, including anxiety and aggression. So studies have shown that alterations in the gut microbiome, the community of microorganisms that reside in the digestive tract, they are associated with a affective disorders such as anxiety, which can contribute to those aggressive behaviours in dogs, which is obviously what we're trying to avoid when we're dealing with a reactive dog. For example, a study published in PeerJ found that the composition of the gut microbiome differs between aggressive and non-aggressive dogs. So this suggests that the gut microbiome may contribute to aggression, or its severity certainly, indicating that the manipulation of that microbiome, e.g. by probiotic administration and whatnot, may alleviate such behaviour. Now, I believe that this is such an important area of consideration when it comes to working with collies with behavioural issues. I just think it's crucial. And that's why I asked canine nutritionist Holly Barker to come along to do a regular nutrition Q&A for my online students. You know that expression that it takes a village to raise a child? Well, I believe the same is true when it comes to having a happy, healthy and well-behaved collie dog too. There's many different people that I draw into the membership to help us achieve that goal. Now, the other thing that you'll have heard me talk about before is that common areas of physical pain are linked to behavioural issues. Now, physical discomfort, particularly in the joints, is a prevalent contributor to behavioural problems in dogs across the board, not just Border Collies, but across the board. Now, I mean, I don't know about you, but certainly I'm a hockey player and sometimes I do find myself in some pain. But science shows that pain can lead to increased irritability and reactivity. Now, the most commonly affected areas include things like joints, so your hips, the dog's stifles, that's their knees, the carpus, the tarsus, that's the wrist and the ankle, through the spine, in the shoulders and in the elbows. But of course, there's other things as well that could be causing problems. Ear conditions. So if you've got a sore ear, that can have a massive influence on your day-to-day comfort levels. Dental issues. Often see this a lot with young Border Collies and adolescents where, you know, dental issues and dental pain is causing a problem. And also dermatological conditions as well. So if we've got any itching and sort of it's causing a daily problem, that's a stressor that we potentially need to address. Now, fortunately, the incidence of hip dysplasia in Border Collies is moderate. So according to data from the Orthopaedic Foundation for Animals, that's the OFA, there was a 10.3% prevalence rate, ranking them 116th among breeds, and that was an evaluation that they did in 2020. But should a dog suffer with bad hips, it can cause significant discomfort. And dogs with hip dysplasia may exhibit decreased activity, difficulty rising, and reluctance to run or climb stairs. Now, the issue often with a working dog, and like a Border Collie is a descendant of working dogs, even if their biggest job is getting on the sofa in the evening, what we see with them is that they won't necessarily say, no, I don't want to go for a walk today because my hips are sore. They're more likely to jack up their adrenaline in sort of pain relief in order to be able to do those activities. But you might see things like that they're showing some reluctance to jump into the car. You might find that they are less keen to jump up on the sofa or be moved off of the sofa as well. There could be some pain stuff going on for them there. Now, unfortunately, Border Collies are susceptible to certain spinal conditions, notably degenerative myelopathy, and that's DM. A study in Japan revealed a carrier rate of 27.6% for the DM-associated mutation in collies. Now, while not all carriers will develop the disease, this high carrier rate suggests a genetic predisposition. Now, recognizing and addressing physical ailments is crucial, particularly if you've got a dog that is reacting in a negative way when you're out and about. So regular veterinary checkups, appropriate exercise, and weight management can all help mitigate those issues. But of course, training can come into this because we can only help a collie who wants to be checked over, can't we? And unfortunately, I know lots of Border Collies where going to the vet and being checked over by some stranger is not top of their priority list. Now, this isn't a nice to have training skill, is it? It's important for improving their welfare and quality of life. And additionally, in incorporating things like good joint supplements, providing supporting bedding and that kind of thing, they can all help enhance comfort and potentially reduce pain-induced behavioural problems. Understanding that interplay between physical health and behaviour is vital. Because by addressing underlying health issues, particularly those related to gut health and joint pain, we can take significant steps forward in improving our dog's behaviour and overall quality of life, which is what we're all after, right? Now, one other thing that we need to take into consideration, because we live with Border Collies, is the effects of overstimulation and elevated stress hormones. Because chronic stress leads to prolonged elevation of cortisol, the primary stress hormone, and that can adversely affect canine behaviour. Now, a study in physiology and behaviour demonstrated that dogs subjected to social and spatial restrictions exhibited increased excitement, aggression, and uncertainty when challenged, behaviours associated with elevated cortisol levels. This suggests that chronic stress and overstimulation can heighten reactivity and reduce a dog's ability to cope with environmental changes. And I think we probably all know a Border Collie or two that doesn't cope well when they have changes in their daily routine. Yes, they are very particular dogs and they do like things to happen in a certain order. But equally, if they are quite stressed, and I guess humans can be like this too, can't we? Their ability to cope with any sort of change can be diminished when they've got too much cortisol in their system. Now, additionally, research highlighted by Canine Evolutions revealed a synchronization of cortisol patterns between dogs and their owners. So when owners were experiencing higher stress levels, their dogs displayed corresponding increases in cortisol. Now, this indicates that a stressful environment can contribute to elevated stress hormones in dogs, potentially exacerbating reactive behaviors. Now, before you think this is all my fault or I'm making things worse for my dog, hang on. That's not what I'm saying here. If you're trying to cope with challenging behavior from your dog by yourself, it's no wonder that you're stressed. Border Collies, particularly when they demonstrate big feelings, they are not kidding, and it is hard work to be able to manage that. And it's why I believe owners need effective support in the form of practical training things that they can do in small ways. So what you don't need is an enormous big plan that, you know, you're going to feel more stressed and more overwhelmed by, but lots of little things that can all move you in the right direction towards improving your situation with them. But it's also why I think that they need a community of people who understand where they're at. That while some days they love their dog, some days it's blinking hard. Because, like I say, I don't doubt that people love their dogs, but it's silly to think that every day is just all roses and wonderful things. Often it can be very, very hard. And whilst I don't love that sometimes my online students have a bad day with their dogs, what I do love is how immediately they rush to support each other in our private Facebook group. And that's something that's very, very special and something that I love about our community. They are just such an immensely kind and caring bunch of people. And it's certainly one of the reasons they tell me why they enjoy being part of Collie Culture Club so much. Essentially, the takeaway message is that stress at either end of the lead isn't good for you or your collie. But the important thing is that we can do something about it. Now, many owners, I think, just assume that their dog is stubborn. If they've got a Border Collie, they often go, well, it's just a crazy collie, right? You know, maybe they even think that their dog is beyond help when they take them outside the front door. But this is just something which is a normal part of owning a Border Collie. Not so. Reactivity often builds up over time because of unmet needs. So let's talk about some solutions and some first steps to changing that, shall we? Right, so step one, I'd like you to think about creating a reset day. So this is a day where you reduce stress as much as possible with a quiet, low arousal kind of day. So that might mean going to a secure dog training field rather than going on a local walk so that you know that you're not going to bump into other people. It might even involve not even leaving the house. It might be if you've got a big enough garden that you can go and do some sniffing activities out in the garden. Then, you know, that's a reset day is, right, we're all going to take a breath and we're going to, you know, get back to a point where we can cope with a new day. Now, step two, one of the things that I often observe with new online students is physical signs that their dog is maybe not particularly comfortable. So the first thing that I look at is when the dog is asked to sit, what position does that sit look like? So are the hips underneath the dog properly, or is the dog slouched to one side over the other? And if they are slouched from one side to the other, do they regularly do that? because you can't tell very much from one, 2-minute video that I review. But over time, what you can start to notice is that there's a picture that the dog favors leaning from one side to the other. And that's important information that we might want to take back to our vet, or we might want to take back to some sort of physical specialist, like a physiotherapist or a canine massage, something like that. Now, step 3 would be to introduce some calming activities to a reactive dog who is just like stress is high in them. Let's give them some calming activities to reduce some of that stress. So sniffing games are excellent, and we've got lots of them in the club for that very reason. Not only do the dogs love them, but it's a way of really reducing some of that anxiety in them, and it just promotes a sense of calm, which is exactly what we want. Enforced rest if needed. So if you need to get hold of some puppy pen, even though you've got an adult dog, get hold of some puppy pen. If they're crate trained and you've got a big enough crate for them that they can have some rest but still move around a little, crate's a good idea. Might be that you have a small room, maybe a utility area or something like that you can pop on a radio or maybe an Alexa in the background to screen some of the noises that they might be reacting to out and about around your house, just to make sure that they are getting some decent rest. And it might also be that you do some slow decompression type walks where the purpose is not, to be running up and down after a tennis ball or getting all worked up or excited. It's just to mooch. It's just to, breathe in and out and smell the roses, as it were. And that's a wrap for today. Thanks for tuning in. I hope this episode gave you the insight and motivation to make real progress with your collie. A big shout out to today's sponsor, Collie Culture Club, my online training membership designed to give you the personalised support you need. Inside the club, you'll get my expert feedback on your training, weekly live sessions with me and guest experts, and a supportive community to help you every step of the way. Don't forget, you can find all the details about the club, plus the resources mentioned in today's episode, inside our Facebook group. So be sure to check it out. Next time, we'll be diving into what to do in the moment when your dog has a big reaction to something. So stay tuned. And until next time, keep focusing on progress, not perfection, because every small win counts.